Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our March 24th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. We are calling the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. And if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. A reading of meeting notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Verona Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the Star Ledger, posted with the Township of Verona and the Verona Education Association. Posting of this meeting, setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted at the Verona Board of Education office and on the Verona Public Schools District website. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public via the Board of Education website. Dr. Riley, if you could please call attendance.
Mr. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Perk. Ms. Kanotic. Ms. Frisco.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to, I need a motion, please, to approve our minutes from the March 10th, 2026 Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Waka, seconded by
Second.
Mrs. Kanotic. Any discussions? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Walker. Yes. Mr. Perk.
Yes.
Ms. Kanotic.
Yes.
Mrs. Frisco.
Yes.
Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to our superintendent's report by Ms. Diane DiGiuseppe.
Good evening. My report's going to be a little short tonight since we have the budget presentation and the winter athletics recap. Just a reminder that Thursday is a half day for students. Our teachers will be doing professional development, continuing to do the work that we started earlier in the year. And our elementary teachers are getting trained for the new NJSLA. The new one. The Verona Foundation for Educational Excellence, or VFE Inspiring Excellence Awards, will be held on April 17th at 7:30 in the Verona Community Center. Go to their website, get your tickets. This year, the honorees are Lisa Hagel, Brookdale kindergarten teacher, Betty Ho, VHS Mandarin teacher and retiree, Dana Lustig, Forest and Lanning school social worker, Luigi Nice, the Lanning head custodian, Diane Bartel, Forest second grade teacher, Jenny Chin, HBW Mandarin teacher, and Alex Maurice, who was the FN Brown special educator. This award is being awarded posthumously. As you recall, we lost Alex earlier in the year. Anyway, after a hard-fought battle with cancer. I just also wanted to thank VFE for their latest round of grants. We received $7,483 for 6 administrators and 2 of our teacher instructional leaders to attend the Building Expertise for Deeper Learning Conference. And that's going to be a great opportunity for them. For the 6 administrators, which is Dr. Miller, Dr. Lanzo, Mr. Galbercheck, Mr. Lancaster, Mrs. Kohler, and Mrs. Peter, this will be their first national conference. So it will be a good opportunity for them and our teacher instructional leaders as well. And that is, I'm sorry, I got verklempt and I lost my train of thought. Callie Sella, and it'll come to me in a minute, the other teacher that's going. I apologize. Going on, I'll come back to that. Going on, we had $700 to Corey Majestic to attend the Acadians Math Mentor Professional Development Workshop. $750 to Eric Lynch to host Jazz Day for the music students at VHS, and that Jazz Day is on April 15th at 7 p.m. $9,750 for 40 additional Chromebooks for the elementary teachers to use for data collection associated currently with literacy, but I'm sure they'll find uses for those Chromebooks for additional data collection. $5,767 to Alyssa Frida to support the purchase of manipulatives for the Illuminating Innovation Lighting the Way to STEAM project. And these will augment immersive learning tools previously awarded by a different VFE grant. $826 to Nadia Anzalone for the purchase of materials necessary to create TEDx talks with her students. And that TEDx, if you're interested in watching the kids do their talks, is on April 23rd at 6 p.m. at VHS. And then another large one was $7,399 to Dr. Tamburo for his 86-inch Promethean Act panel board in his classroom. So thank you, VP.
So Diane, if someone's listening at home and wants to purchase a ticket for that event, where do they go?
They go to the VP website, which is,
.org.
thank you.
VFEE.org. So if you click there, it'll automatically, there'll be a pop-up and it'll take you right to the site to purchase tickets.
And the other teacher who is going is Bethany McMinn, HBW literacy teacher. That's going to the virtual conference. That's my report for this evening. I'll turn it over to Dr. Riley for the budget presentation, tentative budget presentation.
Okay. Looks like we're all set. Thanks, Joe. That looks good. All right, good evening. Tonight, we're going to review the tentative budget for fiscal '27. As a reminder, our budget process includes a sequential procedure that begins with detailed meetings with all of our budget managers. We review the status of the current year budget, our current fiscal positions, and then projections for future years. Throughout the process, once Dr. DiGiuseppe and I meet with all the administrators to review the wants and needs and build their budgets, the facilities and finance committees are consulted regularly for their feedback and support, which their feedback and support brings us to where we are in this presentation. And then upon review and approval by the full board this evening of the tentative budget, the budget's then submitted to the executive county superintendent for review and approval, after which we then hold the statutory public hearing to approve the final budget. So in terms of our objectives for this evening, I want to be sure that the board and the public is aware of the sources of revenue and our estimated projections of same, the projected expenditures, and we'll highlight the increases in budgeted appropriations. We'll talk in depth about the budget variables and the goals of the budget, and then highlighting our next steps forward. So in terms of those budget goals, I think it's always important to come back to the definition and plan of a budget, right? That it guides our allocation of resources to support student achievement and operational needs. The goals of our budget for fiscal '27, I'll be very honest, are not as lofty as normally our goals we would choose for them to be. And as you know, many of you know, and many of you have heard, that districts in the news throughout this budget cycle This has not been an easy build for anyone. In light of inflationary and unsustainable cost increases, these previous 3 years, and I'm sure those of you who have served on this board for many years will agree that the previous 3 years have been difficult. We in Verona are not immune to a difficult budget build this time around. And as you've heard, districts moving towards the fiscal cliff, which is brought on by expiring COVID relief funding and exacerbated by the exorbitant increase in healthcare benefits costs, and what I'll call the inevitable failure of Chapter 44. This budget is forcing some very difficult decisions, not only for, and you've heard about many in the news already, but for almost all, certainly of our neighboring districts and across the state. So here, as highlighted goals, we want to make sure that we come back to ensuring the fiscal responsibility and transparency that a budget should guarantee. Maintaining our academic programming and student supports. And I'm going to come back to that point several times throughout the presentation. We're working very hard to preserve our co- and extracurricular programs and continue to move forward to maintain our facilities and maximize our budget efficiencies. In terms of the components of the budget, right, at a very high level, it's just broken into 2 parts, our revenue and our appropriations. And of the revenue, that is made up of the ad valorem tax levy, the state and federal aids, and our local sources. And that's for us, tuition, facilities use, and local grants. As well as on the appropriation side now, the largest of which are, for any district, are salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, maintenance costs, utilities, and transportation. Those are really our largest cost structure. So in terms of the overview of the budget, a general fund, we're looking at a general fund operating fund balance of $47,415,216. Special revenue fund of $607,191. That's comprised of our local, state, and federal grants. And then for Fund 40, our debt service fund, just under $5 million, $4.896 million. And that's our repayment of debt. Now, it's important to note again that that's funded through separate debt service and additional state aid. And then we'll get into that in a little bit. Specifically, in terms of the makeup of the revenue, no budget is complete without a good donut chart. But this is just sort of, what's important here is just to look at the size of the slices of the donut, if you will, and acknowledge that the majority of our revenue, and most districts for that matter, is made up of the ad valorem tax levy, right? Our tax levy. And followed by our state aid, followed by our extraordinary aid and Senate. And then the board has committed to, once again, using fund balance this year of $701,000 to support the general fund. On the appropriation side, this gets a little more detailed and a little busier. But here again, it's most important to look at the largest quote unquote slices or cuts of the donut. On the general education side, that blue piece at the very top of $14.4 million. Special education, that light blue piece on the lower left-hand side, or teal or whatever you want to call it, of $11.1 million. And then our benefits, the purple slice on the bottom right-hand corner, of $9.3 million. That comprises the majority of, not just ours, but most every budget.
And can I point something out?
Of course.
I think where the state needs to begin to think about rescuing districts, if you look at that teal piece of the pie for special education, it's 11.1 million, general education, 14.4 million. They're not that far apart, given that our special education population is 16% of our total population. So these are areas that are growing in cost, and while we certainly understand our need and desire to educate our students with disabilities. The state has been talking for years about providing more assistance to cover special education, and they just don't come through with it generally. The other interesting growing piece, the transportation piece of the donut there at 1.3 million. It's important to note we don't transport our kids to and from school. So that number has been growing over the past. That is just transportation of students with special needs going to out-of-district placement and athletics.
Yes.
Because our field trip buses are paid, borne by the students, pay for those buses. So that's really just athletics and what's that? The music
It's
program.
included.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's included in that.
That is
Because
included in
that's also kind of included like with athletics.
Co and extracurricular. So to be more specific here, and as Dr. DiGiuseppe is talking about, demonstrated on this slide are the headwinds to building this budget. And on the left-hand side, the revenue. She referred to the challenge of the state meeting its obligation. I'm going to go out and say it's really an obligation to support districts in providing funding for special needs students. And as that population continues to grow, districts need that support. Unfortunately, however, the state has the ability to move the goalposts, as it were, in terms of allocating extraordinary aid. And unfortunately for Verona, we've experienced a situation where for fiscal 26, our current year, we budgeted at $1.2 million, expecting that we were going to get 1.2 or more based on the application that was made. And unfortunately, the state moved the goalposts and only funded about 50%. So that lowered our number down to about $933,000.
Question?
Please.
So I see we're putting in a 20% increase in health benefits. That's one of the lowest numbers I've seen from any district.
So I'm going to get there. And it's 20%, but cautiously, you're absolutely right in that where we are and the plan that we have, we do not participate in the state health benefits plan. And they are exposed to a 32% increase for fiscal 26, for fiscal 27, and 28% from fiscal 26. So yes, you're right to say, we're in the best seat in the bad neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor. But it looks like this number is a safe number to project to the 20%.
Yes.
All right, very
Yes,
good.
and I have that in writing from our broker. And it could actually, we could be in a place where it could go as low as 18. Yes, thank you for the question, because that's an important thing to pick up on. Jumping back to the revenue though, I talked a little bit about the lower extraordinary aid. So we have to, moving forward, we need to be cognizant of what the state, may or may not be able to provide in terms of extraordinary aid, and set our numbers, our budget numbers accordingly. And as I'm going to demonstrate later, we've done that. We also have decreasing interest rates. So as the Fed fund rates continue to go down, what we were able to enjoy, what every district really, and all of us personally were able to enjoy, was a higher interest rate for cash sitting in the bank. We're less, we're in a position now where those Fed fund rates are going down. We've had 3 cuts, and we're certainly, expecting at least 1 more. So that does cut into our opportunity to budget for revenue. And then finally, we are experiencing a loss in federal funding. Not only the expiration of the COVID funding, obviously, but we have been informed that we are not eligible for next year for Title I.
Did appeal that.
And we are working on it. Now,
Sorry, the the appeals based on the fact that we have the new condo complexes in town or no?
Question, so this is going to be a reduction in Title I for the next several years because it's based on the 2024 census, which is off. So I'm appealing those census numbers. I did send our applications for state aid, which has our official enrollment numbers in it. They're official documents. I sent them for 23-24 and 24-25 since it's a 2024 census. And they're off significantly in enrollment. I did get a long-winded, hard-to-understand email back that I'm going to shuffle off to Kyle Trent, our board attorney, and just say, like, does this make sense to you? Because it didn't really make sense to me. But they did offer to speak to me on the phone, which I will do tomorrow.
Another quick question. The lower extraordinary aid, you mentioned there were goal posts that were moved by the government around that. I had thought that maybe that was the census shift that happened, but were there other goalposts that were
No, so in
changed?
terms of extraordinary aid, the way that works is that we make an application based on extraordinary costs above and beyond what the state says is reasonable and customary. So tuitions above a certain amount, we're able to apply for basically reimbursement from the state for tuitions for out-of-district students that are above X amount. Extraordinary services, occupational physical therapy, speech services, things like that. We're able to apply for those costs that are above and beyond what the state says the district should be responsible for. The issue and what I'm saying where they move the goalposts is when all of the districts make their applications, the state allocates X amount of money for that. Based on the applications and the totals of the applications that come in, the state generally is able to reimburse districts at a rate of usually about 70%, sometimes 60. In this case, it was 51. So that's why, I'm sure we thought the $1.2 million was going to be attainable, but unfortunately, it was not. Yeah, great question. On the appropriation side, on the right side of the screen, these are just some of the major cost drivers. So the aforementioned increase in health benefits, as well as the increase in salaries. And again, 78% of our budget, just under $38 million of our total revenue or our total budget is attributable to salaries and benefits. And I will say that that's somewhat less than some districts, right? Some districts, they're in the 80% in terms of salaries and benefits. Other notable cost increase for this year is 3.5% increase in transportation. That's tied to CPI. And as we all know, when you get your utilities bills lately, we're experiencing a 10% plus increase in utilities. And again, not to mention that I could keep going, in terms of the percentage increases, right? The technology contracts are all running, plus 3.5% to 5%, of which, everything that's technology related in those contracts and services, everything is going up beyond what we would want it to be.
Dr. Riley, just for the public's benefit, the salary increase that you note here, or salaries as just an appropriation, those in the donut chart a few slides back, those were included in general education and special education? 'Cause there
Yes,
was a
so
separate
yes, that's a
benefits piece of the
fantastic question.
donut.
Yes, absolutely. So in those larger pieces of the donut, the salaries are in there. So general and special education. Yeah,
Yeah.
great question.
And could you give everyone a sense as to, like, of the general education or special education, how much of that slice of the donut was specifically for salaries, ballpark?
Oh,
It's most
inside of those slices,
Yeah.
it's like upward, it's like 90%.
That's,
Yeah,
okay. Yep.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good question. So really, the reason that we speak in those percentages is that so that the public and the board has an understanding that the movable costs, right, those unfixed costs is a relatively minute part, right? The actual supplies, pens, paper, pencils, paper clips is a very small part of the budget. Thank you for the questions. So, this is a difficult slide. The initial run of the budget resulted, and if you look at both the revenue and the appropriation side, we know that revenue and appropriations need to balance. Those two things need to be aligned. And the initial run of the budget resulted in a $3.1 million imbalance between revenue and appropriations. And that's very scary. That's a large number. So, in order to make those adjustments, we first set to work to adjust the revenue side. And let's see what we could do on the revenue side in order to help balance that. What we did was agree to an increase in the projected interest. Despite the declining rate environment, I felt more comfortable that we could allocate a little bit more and project a little bit more for interest. We did experience an increase in state aid, and that's fantastic. That is $184,335 that we did not plan for, and that's a good number. The application of allowable healthcare waiver that we'll talk about a little bit more, that brings almost $1.4 million into this budget. And then again, based on the feedback from the Finance Committee, the board's commitment to support this budget through $701,000 of fund balance. On the appropriation side, we need to bring that number down. So we set to work on a pretty much an overall decrease of between 10 and 20% on our supply lines. And again, as I just said, it's a relatively small amount of the budget, but you know, when we're trying to balance these scales, every dollar helps. And I can tell you that every single of our couple thousand accounts were analyzed over the past several years so that we could make smart decisions about where to make those adjustments. Some adjustments to staff scheduling resulted in staffing efficiencies, and some retirements are going to lead to attrition. So that is a good thing, and that helps us make the necessary adjustments. However, and then our ability to renegotiate some of those existing contracts, so technology contracts, services contracts, we leverage as much negotiation as we could in order to bring the appropriations number down. And that got us to $1.2 million of an imbalance. So that was a lot of great work, but $1.2 million is still a large number. And in order to accomplish that, we now have to consider staffing adjustments and reductions in force. So we have identified the potential of 13 positions that will be considered and then shared at a later date upon the approval of the final approval of the budget.
And it's important to note too that the 13 positions don't necessarily represent 13 staff members. They're positions that we would eliminate that as a result of retirement we wouldn't fill, but it's not like we're losing 13 staff members.
So with the balanced budget now, we can take a look at the impact on the taxpayer and the tax levy. Here, our statutory maximum of 2% yields just under $800,000. We have an allowable healthcare adjustment. Because of the size of the increase in our healthcare, even at the 20%, our allowable healthcare adjustment is $1.4 million. So taken together, with an averaged assessed home value of $704,600 for next year, the annual impact would be $483 or $40.25 per month. And again, that's all inclusive of the general and Fund 40 debt service. I didn't want to get into, it's a lot of numbers and very busy slides. But suffice it to say, one thing I do want to point out, there are some positives here. And one of them is, while we do carry a sizable amount of debt service, we are enjoying a downward trend in our obligation for debt service. And very wisely, former boards and former administration made choices in order to adjust and refinance some debt service. And what we have is refunding debt service now. So what you're not seeing in that number is, for this year, $58,000 of refunded debt service. So the debt levy on the Fund 40 side is going to come down quicker. We're actually in a negative debt levy situation right now, which is a really good, really smart decision that's helping to offset the total tax levy impact.
Is that refunded money does not come back into the district for district use, it goes to the taxpayer for taxpayer relief, correct?
Correct. It is required to offset the tax levy.
Just another quick question about the, I think maybe it was the previous slide, in terms of that gap that exists, and this is probably more for the public's benefit, but would you say that gap, what's fueling that gap that's now requiring this increase in tax levy, would you say that that's primarily relating to healthcare or rising healthcare costs, or like how would you distill sort of like the primary drivers of that?
So, yes and yes. And I don't mean to be coy about that, but the largest, and I'm going to keep coming back to unsustainable cost increase, is the health benefits. But, it does bear to keep in mind that our salary obligations are beyond 2%. And many of the other costs that come into play, as I mentioned, I could, the right side of the appropriations line, I could go for, forever to highlight the cost increases, but the major one, yes, is the health benefits. And again, we are not immune to that in Verona. To Mr. Walker's point earlier, we are actually somewhat, I don't want to say fortunate, but we are in the best house in a bad neighborhood right now.
Dr. Riley, I was holding this question, but Ms. Knodig kind of inspired me to ask it now, and if you want to table it for later in this presentation. But you mentioned early at the beginning about the challenges of Chapter 44, and that goes a long way into the problem that Ms. Knodig cited. And again, for the benefit of the public, do we want to have a tangential aside to explain the impact of Chapter 44, or is that something better to?
No, I could absolutely. This is the perfect place.
Good point.
To bring that to light. And I apologize that I don't have a slide in this presentation to highlight that, but in a future presentation, I will be sure to do that. So the long and short of it is this, and again, Chapter 44, great intentions. No one could have seen these, again, unsustainable cost increases, healthcare inflation, and these costs that have resulted in the increases. However, all that to say that Chapter 44 poses a challenge in that the reimbursements to the districts, or the withholding, the employee contributions, are capped. And they're capped as a percentage of salaries rather than a percentage of the premium cost. So as the premium costs increase, at a bottom left to top right, the increases in the employee contributions stay somewhat horizontal. And so the challenge there is the gap between the increases in the premium costs and the relative sustained costs of the employee contributions. And that is belying this, perceived failure of Chapter 44.
And
I guess if you had a slide, it would be a left-handed hockey stick almost.
It would look like this, right? It would almost look, to your point, like a left-handed hockey stick, where the premium costs are increasing, you know, literally, like we all wished our retirement accounts did. Whereas the employee contributions are, this is very crude, but, but the employee contributions are not anywhere near keeping pace.
And because it's like me to point fingers, the decisions, the legislative decisions that have been made on, about schools, on schools, over the past 10 years have done nothing to further education in New Jersey. 2% budget cap. The biggest one, I mean, it's gone now, but the superintendent's salary cap that was supposed to save taxpayers money with the change in the salary of one person in the district, it may have gotten you a once a month Starbucks. That was the first legislative disaster it forced many quality superintendents out of the state at one time, opening the door for novice superintendents like myself at the time to try to navigate the situation at hand. Then there was the 2% budget cap around the same time. Who thought that was going to work? Right? Nothing goes up under 2%. And then ultimately, Chapter 44, when you're looking at districts that are historically at the 2% budget cap, this is a pretty decent increase, 3.7. It's unusual. And that's starting to come back after COVID, but you're talking about salaries that go up under 4% that you're using to calculate reimbursements for things that are going up between 15 and 30%. It mathematically doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable, and no one needed a crystal ball to see this coming.
So again, we do come back to the notion of an unsustainable cost increase. But Mr. Boone, to your point, the way out of this, unfortunately, is that we all districts, we are going to need to be legislated out of this, because the burden on the taxpayers is again, to Mr. Walker's point, unsustainable.
Just so that anyone that's watching or anyone in the room here understands, Chapter 78, which was the employee contribution prior to Chapter 44, actually required on a sliding scale for the employee to pay a percentage of the cost of their health care. Now it's based on their salary, which is not equitable, really. If you think about someone who's, you know, low on the guide, making with a full family benefit package versus someone who's at the top of the guide with single benefits. So it's inequitable and creates a gap in the budget for districts.
One of the other things I think is important to point out to the public and to the board is that we work very hard to manage efficiencies and find cost savings. So we do participate in several things that help to mitigate some of these increases. Of those, the board knows that since I came, we've joined 2 additional cooperative purchasing agencies. For our next meeting, I'll be bringing another. And then, you know, by leveraging some of these cooperative purchases, we find more favorable pricings for goods and services. And that is over the course of a year does result in significant cost savings. The aforementioned pool in which we participate for insurance, again, helps us to mitigate those rising costs, right? Certainly 20 is better than 32. We do participate in E-rate funding, and that helps to offset costs for our network connectivity and some of our equipment. So we will be going out for firewalls this year, and we'll be leveraging E-rate funding reimbursements to offset those costs as well. And those are notable. As well as I'm working very hard to find shared transportation costs, because again, that $1.2 million of transportation in a district that doesn't have, we're basically a walking district. That's quite a bit. So anywhere that we can find and we can partner with some of our neighboring districts in order to find those efficiencies, that will result in significant savings for the district. So in terms of the summary, tonight, we're approving a tentative budget, including the health benefit waiver and the statutory travel maximum, all that's required for the submission of the budget to the executive county superintendent. And then we'll be looking forward to holding the statutory public budget hearing on the 28th of April. And we certainly encourage the good questions and participation that certainly the board has provided tonight. And before I take any more questions, I just want to point out, and I alluded to it earlier, that, you know, despite some of the challenges that we're talking about here, and some very difficult and uncomfortable decisions that are associated with this budget, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that things could be worse. And as you hear on the news in some other places, they are. And one of the reasons that they are not as bad as it could be is the result of this board and previous boards' oversight and thoughtful stewardship in terms of helping the district administration over the past few years. We will get through this. We are going to be okay. We are not going to be in the positions that we're hearing of some other places. So in terms of our current financial position, combined with some very thoughtful and detailed multi-year forecasting, we will continue to be able to deliver the best possible education for the students of Verona. And I just want to take the opportunity to publicly thank the administrators and budget managers, one of whom we have in the audience tonight, who has worked very hard and learned very quickly about budgeting. Certainly, I want to thank the Finance Committee for the good feedback. It's very difficult to come in the middle of the year and jump into and pilot a ship that you didn't build or put in the air. And the feedback of the Finance Committee, Dr. DiGiuseppe, and the board has been great to help balance this budget so that we are in a very much a fiscally responsible position. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riley.
So I do have a couple questions on that, and working with you, Dr. Riley, on some of the finance committee issues with Mr. Perna as well, it felt like every session was a Finance 101. If not, I should say a 401 class, so thank you for your attention to the detail. Going forward, I do have a few questions to ask. You mentioned the declining interest rate, and obviously in the news, the notion of a declining interest rate is probably out the window now and will be at least stable, if not maybe a little bit higher, potentially even. And I think you alluded to this, did that factor a little bit into how you were calculating our interest?
It did. If you remember the previous slide when we were attempting to balance, we did think long and hard about that. And we did bring back some money into the budget that had initially, so where we started with a forecast of interest for the year is not where we are now. It's much higher.
And also in the spirit of looking ahead, and I know, and one of the reasons at the beginning of the year I think Ms. Knodig, we had this discussion about me being optimistic about the budget. My optimism lied in the fact, as you said, we got probably the best seat in a rough neighborhood. The challenge that you have, Dr. Riley, is not just for this budget, but for subsequent budgets coming ahead. And a lot of that can be impacted by the overall county and the overall town's financial status. How much thought at this point, or factoring into forward projections, come from like the reassessment that we just went through in Verona? That doesn't increase the pot of finances, of course, but it does change maybe our chances of state aid and other contributions. So
It does.
how do we?
So it's a very insightful question, as I would expect. And yes, it does change the calculus a little bit. So again, in terms, what it does is change the rates. So without going too far into the weeds, it's changing the percentage of tax rate. So as your assessment changes, it lowers in effect the tax rate. Doesn't lower your taxes, unfortunately. And again, my town went through we went through 3 consecutive years of reassessment. So I'm well accustomed to this. But it does change the calculus, and what it does, Mr. Boone, is forces us to think long and hard about what our aid numbers will look like moving forward. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that, in part, state aid is built on the perception of what the district is able to pay, right? The district share. And that is leveraged to what the average assessed home values are. So yes, we do need to be, and we are, cognizant of that and how we're going to build future budgets.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you just clarify for the benefit of the public, you know, we're talking about interest earned on reserves that we have, but there is a debt obligation, and the fact that the bonds that we have issued in the past are not floating rate and the fixed rate. So we could, you know, unfortunately, interest rates falling could theoretically hurt us on the income side, but they don't necessarily benefit us on the interest expense side because the bonds are fixed.
They do and they don't. What we actually do enjoy relatively low interest on our bonds. And of that, again, when those referenda were passed, the projects were eligible for SDA, for state aid. So we do enjoy a fairly substantial amount, almost $1.2 million in state aid on our debt levy. So that's a positive. That aid taken in conjunction with the refunding debt levy that we have, the refunding debt service that we have on one of our loans, that actually bodes well, and that's what I was referring to earlier. Our debt service is actually negative, so it does help to benefit the overall levy.
Your predecessor went through a round of refinance.
Yeah.
With some of those.
It was, I mean, you could not have timed it any better, honestly. It was a great choice and the right time to do it. And I'm glad I did it on my own house at the time as well. Yeah.
I just have a quick question regarding Mr. Boone's comment about the revaluation that took place in Verona for this current year, for 2026. The new numbers took place. I find it frustrating that the state would look at Verona or any district that just went through a revaluation to keep up with the market of housing. Because there are districts or townships that don't go through revaluations as often as some others do. So for the state to look at us being a wealthy community because our homes are now assessed at closer to market value, if that market should crash, are they going to come and look at us because the market now has crashed and our homes are not that valuable anymore? I doubt it. So, you know, to look at Verona or to a neighboring town and say, well, their homes are assessed at 400,000, but they haven't been revalued probably in maybe 5 or 10 years. So I hope whoever is in the state doing this,
It's
coming up with the numbers.
It's really just part of the school funding formula. It's just
they
the
need to
number of
redo
variable that,
Right, that
yeah.
funding formula is just awful, so.
It is one piece of it. I mean, it's not the total piece of
Right.
the pie. It is one portion of it. But to your point, right, it's the analogy I can make is to gas prices, right? We seem timely. We always see the gas prices react in the upwards direction quickly, and it takes more time for them to trickle back down. And I think to your point, right, if there were, you know, a sort of 2006-ish crash in the housing market, it would not be so quick. All that to say, though, that the reassessment, it is a lagging indicator. It is a lagging piece of data or a lagging data point that is used in the calculation. So not by much, but it offers us a one-year buffer. That's why, to Mr. Boone's very insightful question, that is something that we need to be cognizant of, moving into fiscal '28.
And I think too, Ms. Prisco, that I think all of this discussion underscores the fact that, we on the board here are doing the best we can under all of these economic factors that are, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but placed on us by state mandates and state regulations. And I deeply encourage everybody in the public who's here logged in watching this discussion, is that they need to be engaged with their local state representative, in the assembly, their state senator, and really engage with the folks that are going down into Trenton, because if they want to continue to have the school district that they know and love in Verona, a lot of that we need help at the state level, and our community really needs to understand that and engage with their representatives at that level as well.
And to clarify, local fair share, which is the piece, the LFS, which is a piece in the School Funding Reform Act, is 50% based on property value and 50% based on median income of the town. So it's a 50-50 of what they perceive as the district's wealth.
Other questions? Moving on to our agenda, moving on to our student report by Mr. Ryan Gu. Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. Last Wednesday, our concert band competed at the Region Concert Band Festival at Parsippany High School, and the concert band earned a silver rating and received the Outstanding Woodwind Award, recognizing the band's exceptional performance and musicianship. And last Sunday, the percussion ensemble performed at the William Patterson Percussion Festival, and the Verona Music Program will embark on a trip to Boston this upcoming Thursday, where the jazz band will perform on the streets of Boston and participate in a clinic.
That's awesome.
On Saturday, the Model UN team took to the competition at the North Brunswick Township Model UN Conference, where 3 students took home awards, and the Girls Learn International Club is hosting a feminine products drive and will be accepting donations for menstrual and feminine hygiene products until April 17th. Donations are to be collected in the front lobby of the high school. Next week will be our upcoming spring pep rally, accompanied by a spirit week where students will celebrate their shared school spirit, community, and spring athletics programs before spring break. And that's all for my report for tonight. Thank you.
Great work, Brian.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on to our agenda, athletics winter recap by our assistant principal of athletics, Justin Aradishian. Did I say it right? No, I didn't. Sorry, Justin. I just call you Justin.
That works. Good evening, everybody. We take great pride, especially, growing up in a town similar to Verona that really values athletics. It was really special to come into a district that experienced some great success here in my first season as athletic director. So, good evening. This winter season was an outstanding one for Verona High School athletics, highlighted by championships, deep postseason runs, and impressive individual accomplishments across multiple programs. Starting with our girls' winter track team, this group had a tremendous season, delivering strong performances at every meet and earning numerous medals along the way. They finished second out of 18 teams in the SEC Conference Championship, with 8 athletes earning all-conference honors. Several school records were broken this season, including the sprint medley relay team, which qualified for the New Balance Nationals in Boston. Gwen Neal also qualified individually for the 800 meters. The team captured its 3rd state championship in the past 4 years, recording 5 first-place finishes. 7 athletes advanced to the group championships, where 4 earned medals. Gwen Neal also capped off an incredible winter track career by winning her 3rd consecutive group championship in the 800 meters event. Our boys basketball team also had a strong and well-rounded season, finishing 16-11 and earning the 7th seed in the state tournament. They hosted their first home playoff game since 2017 and placed 2nd in the conference with a 7-5 record. The season was defined by resilience and teamwork. After some key early season wins against Cedar Grove, the team built momentum, particularly in January, where they won 7 out of 10 games. They picked up quality wins against programs like North Bergen, Newark Academy, and Belleville, and showed growth by avenging earlier losses later in the season. What made this team especially unique was its unselfish style of play. They won 16 games without a single player averaging more than 9 points a game, really embodying and embracing a team-first approach. Defensively, they were among the best in the conference, allowing just 43.8 points per game. That defensive identity carried them to the quarterfinal round of the state tournament. Off the court, the team raised over $15,000 through fundraising efforts, including donations to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And 12 players earned varsity letters, 4 of which were recognized as all-conference selections. Moving on to our girls basketball program, they continued their success. The team finished 18-8, went 9-1 in the SEC Liberty Division, earning their 3rd consecutive conference title. They advanced to the 2nd round of the Essex County Tournament and reached the quarterfinals of the state tournament. The junior varsity team also had a strong showing, finishing 12-6 with a roster largely comprised of first-year players, which speaks to the strength of the development of our programs. 6 players earned all conference honors, including Morgan Rossi, Jada Bednar on the first team, Taylor McLean and Ellie Marateo on the second team, and the Haggerty sisters receiving honorable mention recognitions, along with senior Sinclair Zambrowski was selected as Verona's NJBCA Scholar Athlete. Moving on to our wrestling program, it saw its highest percentage of participation in the past decade, with 25 boys and 1 female competing this season. The team qualified for the sectional tournament and competed in a very competitive bracket at the county level. Thomas Michael and Isha Zhu both placed 6th in their respective weight classes. At the district level, we had 3 regional qualifiers: Thomas Michael, Dante Palmer, and Corey Gonch. On the girls' side, Yisha made history in just her 2nd year, becoming our first female district competitor and first female regional qualifier. She advanced to the regional tournament and finished among the top 8, making a significant milestone for our program. And finally, with our girls' swimming team, they advanced to the state sectional semifinals, highlighting a strong postseason performance. And individually, swimmer Vicky Sluck qualified for the state championship meet, as well as post times that qualify for a potential All-American recognition, representing a tremendous personal accomplishment. Overall, this winter season showcased competitive excellence, strong team culture, and pride across all our programs. We're extremely proud of our student athletes and coaches for their hard work, dedication, and the way they represent Verona High School. And say thanks to Pam, working hand in hand with you during the winter season was a pleasure. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
And Justin, for what it's worth, I was really happy to hear your giving to the community and or the donation drive that you did for the St. Jude. I just, again, seeing the students engage in that kind of activity. I think
Yeah, and we
really
also
happy
did
to see.
one. We also had another fundraiser with I didn't mention with the girls basketball for Minettes locally, which was a few $1,000s, but still it was everyone had T-shirts and supported the cause. It was really great event. So
That's the important part. of it.
thank you.
you.
Yeah, right.
Justin, good job on your first board
Yes,
report.
thank you, Justin.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Not bad.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports, finance.
I think you saw it.
We saw, right? We're good on credit. Moving on to public comments on agenda action items. Anything that we will be voting on, please, if you would like to come to the podium and state your name for any action items. Seeing none. Moving on to discussion items. We're not voting on anything that you're going to be talking about, right?
No.
So then we'll have another discussion item at the public comment in a few seconds, just a few minutes. Sorry, Gavin. Any discussion items or new business? No correspondence? Okay, moving on to our action items. I need a motion to approve personnel resolutions A1 through A5.
I'll move it.
Motion by Mr. Waka, seconded by Mrs. Knodig. Any discussion? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Perma?
Yes.
Ms. Canova?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes,
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you. Moving on to education, I need a motion to approve resolutions B1 through B2.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mr. Waka, seconded by
Second?
Mr. Perna. Any discussion? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Waka? Mr. Perna?
Yes.
Ms. Kenotic?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to our athletics co-curricular, motion to approve resolution C1.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Kenotic, seconded by Mr. Boone. Any discussion? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Waka? Mr. Perna?
Yes.
Ms. Kenotic?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to our facilities, need a motion to approve resolutions D1 through D3. Moved by Mr. Perna, seconded by Ms. Kenotic. Are there any discussions?
Just, what are we doing on D1 exactly?
So the Verona Police Department will be coordinating with other local agencies for the purposes of training in the building, in the high school over spring break. Emergency response
Yeah,
training.
okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Waka? Mr. Perna? Ms. Kenotic?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to finance, I need a motion to approve resolutions E1 through E12. Motion by Mr. Waka, seconded by
I'll second.
Mr. Boone. Are there any discussions? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Waka? Yes. Mr. Perna?
Yes.
Ms. Kenotic?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Thank you. And just one more on governance and policy, resolution F1. So moved by Ms. Kenotic, seconded by Mr. Perna. Any discussion? Dr. Riley, if you could please call roll on that.
Mr. Waka?
Yes.
Mr. Perna?
Yes.
Ms. Kenotic?
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco?
Yes,
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
perfect. Thank you. Now we're going on to our public comments. Anyone from the public, from the large audience, please state your name, and you have 3 minutes to address us.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm a freshman student. My name is Gavin Loya, and I'm just here to put a face to the emails that I've been sending out to Miss Dr. Diane Seppi and Mr. Affeezy. I'm interested in creating a boys volleyball team here at the high school. I've been trying this for over a year now, and to no avail yet. This has been tried in years prior, multiple times. I'm just here to put it out. Mr. Affeezy has received a application as well as a bunch of paperwork regarding the teams that will be competing if this becomes a reality. He said he is in support of this. Yeah, that's about all I got. If any questions, please reach out to me via my school email.
Met about it in athletics committee yet. We haven't had an athletics
Right.
committee
We haven't
meeting.
had one yet.
So once we go over that application in athletics committee, I'll share it with the rest of the
I
board.
forget, is that a fall or is a
Spring.
spring? It's spring for boys.
Didn't Verona used to have a boys team like years and years ago? Or am I, like,
Aware of a boys volleyball team ever in Verona? Not,
I mean, like at least 20 years ago? For some reason, it sticks in my head, but I could be
not
wrong.
that I'm aware of, no. Gavin, I appreciate your emails. I appreciate you coming here, spending over an hour with us, listening through the budget. Seeing what our struggles are is one of our biggest challenges, is where we come up with the funding. So it'll definitely be something we talk about in athletics. Normally, when a new program does start, not that I'm trying to think of the last program that maybe our swim team,
Field hockey.
field hockey and swim, they start as a pay-to-play program. So that would be the way, if we were to figure things out to make something happen, that's how it would have to start out as. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So we will talk about this committee with Justin too. And also, a lot goes into funding, availability with gym time, because We all know how crunched we are for space in this facility. So, but thank you so much for coming out and reaching out and just advocating for what is best for the students. And that's what we all want. We really do want what is best for every single one of you guys. But thank you for coming out here tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Just curious, is there a threshold that they have, I mean, setting aside all the budget constraints and all of that, is there a threshold in terms of interest that they have to demonstrate? And what is that threshold?
We actually don't have an official policy of how an athletic team or program is applied. We don't have an
Approved,
application
yeah.
approved. We don't have anything like that. It's not unusual. Most schools don't. Strauss Esme does not have a model policy that they could share with us about that. Some districts require it to be a club first, and that builds engagement. I think in Gavin's application, you have a good number of students that are interested. I have them. Yeah, Mr. Abadasian has them, right? Yeah, Mr. Abadasian has them. Yeah, he gave me a packet.
I really butchered his name.
Abadasian. Yeah. I could be
Got a
butchering it
Gavin
right now
from you.
too. I can say it really well when I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I said, so I'm just gonna,
Yeah, you weren't
Forget it.
even close, Mrs.
thank you. All right, well, thank you. Okay, that's it for our meeting. So our next scheduled public meeting will be held on Thursday, April 16th, 2026, beginning with confidential session at 6 PM, public session at 7 PM in the Verona High School Learning Commons. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Boone, seconded by Mr. Perna. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. It is now 8:13, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a great